All right, so today we're diving deep into something that I think a lot of you have been wanting to really understand.
Knox.
DAX. And
specifically calculate.
the calculate function in Excel.
Yeah.
Which, that's
a big one.
This is a really big deal because this is where you can take your data analysis to a whole other level.
Absolutely. It takes you from sort of just like, seeing numbers to actually getting insights and like manipulating the data to get those insights that you want.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people, they hit a wall with. They learn the basic formulas in Excel.
Right.
But then they're like, okay, but how do I say, okay, well, what about the sales just for this region?
Right.
Or during this promotion, or, what about this? And that's where calculate comes in.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's precisely it. It's like, you can do your basic calculations, but when you really want to start slicing and dicing the data and getting specific answers to very targeted questions, that's when calculate becomes indispensable.
So before we get too far into the nitty-gritty of it, let's make sure we're all starting on the same page.
Sure.
DAX stands for Data Analysis Expressions.
That's right.
And it's basically a whole language.
It is.
For creating calculations in Excel.
Yeah, and Power BI.
And Power BI too.
Uh-huh.
So this is something that it transcends just Excel.
Yeah, it's a really powerful language that allows you to really talk to your data in a very specific and nuanced way.
Okay, so what would you say are like the core components or the building blocks of a calculate formula? What are the pieces that we need to understand?
Well, at its heart, calculate really has two main parts. You have the expression that you want to evaluate.
Okay.
And then you have the filters that you want to apply to that expression.
Okay, so the expression is kind of like saying, hey,
yeah,
Excel, this is the number I'm interested in.
Exactly. It's the core calculation you want to perform.
Yeah.
So it could be something like the sum of sales or the average price or a count of customers.
Okay.
And then the filters are how you refine that calculation. They allow you to specify very specific conditions or criteria that you want to apply to that expression. It's like looking at your data through a set of very precise glasses.
So if my expression is total sales,
right,
my filters could be things like region equals North America or product category equals electronics.
Precisely. You're essentially defining the subset of data that you want to include in that calculation.
Okay, so it's not just saying calculate the total sales for everything in the spreadsheet.
Right.
It's saying calculate it just for this very specific slice of my data.
Exactly. It's all about focusing your analysis.
Okay, and I think this is where it starts to get really powerful because now we're talking about not just calculating things, but being able to see trends.
Absolutely. You can start to uncover patterns and insights that would be hidden if you were just looking at the raw numbers without any filtering.
So how does this all tie in with the concept of row context versus filter context? I know that's a key idea when it comes to calculate.
It is. It's the magic ingredient that really makes calculate work. So row context is basically the context of a single row in your data.
Okay, so each row is like its own little world.
Exactly. It has its own set of values for each column.
Right.
But filter context is like stepping back and looking at your data through a specific lens.
Okay.
It's like applying a filter to your entire data set.
I see.
So instead of just focusing on individual rows, you're looking at a subset of your data that meets specific criteria.
So it's like zooming out from the individual details and seeing the bigger picture based on my filter.
Precisely. And that's what calculate does. It takes the row context and transforms it into filter context, allowing you to perform calculations on a specific slice of your data.
So this feels really powerful because now we're talking about being able to ask really specific questions about our data and get very specific answers.
You got it. And that's just the beginning. There's so much more we can explore with calculate.
Okay, well, I think we've laid a really solid foundation here.
Yes, definitely.
Understanding those core components, the expression, the filters, and how row context and filter context work together.
Absolutely. Those are the fundamentals that will allow you to really unlock the power of calculate.
So let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll delve into some more advanced filtering techniques.
Sounds good. I'm excited to dive deeper into that with you.
Yeah, me too. This is going to be good.
So we're getting into some really cool stuff now.
Yeah, we're going beyond the basics. We're moving into
advanced
filtering techniques with calculate.
Yeah.
And I love how you're always coming up with these analogies to help me wrap my head around things because it's like we've got the basic ingredients of calculate.
Yeah.
Now we're going to start making some like gourmet meal.
Exactly. We're going to get fancy.
Yeah. Okay. So remind me where we left off. We were talking about table filters, which let us filter based on entire tables.
That's right.
And then you mentioned these mysterious filter modifier functions.
Yeah, they're super powerful.
Okay, they almost sound like magic spells for manipulating our data.
They kind of are. I mean, they give you this incredible level of control over the filter context, and they let you do things like, remove existing filters or override filters or even add layers of filters on top of each other.
Okay, my mind is already like, whoa.
It's a whole new level.
Yeah, so give me the rundown on these filter modifier functions.
Okay, so let's start with remove filters.
Okay.
This one's pretty straightforward. It literally removes filters from your calculations.
Okay.
So imagine you have a report that's already filtered for a specific region,
Okay.
but you need to calculate a grand total that includes all regions.
Got it.
Remove filters is like saying, hey, calculate, just forget about any filters that are currently in place and give me the big picture.
Okay, so it's like hitting a reset button.
Exactly. It's incredibly useful when you need to step outside of a specific filter context and perform calculations on the entire data set.
So it's like I've zoomed in
Right.
to look at a particular region, but now I need to step back and see everything.
Exactly.
Okay, and you mentioned something about overriding filters. What was that all about?
Ah, yes, that's where the all function comes in.
Okay.
All L is super powerful. It completely removes filters from specific columns or even entire tables.
Okay.
So it's like saying, forget everything I just told you about filters. I want to see the raw data.
So if remove filters is like hitting the reset button,
Yeah,
all L is like saying, just ignore everything I said about filters, just show me everything.
exactly. It's like starting with a clean slate.
Okay, so if I wanted to calculate, let's say, the percentage of sales for a particular product compared to the total sales for all products, I would use all to make sure I'm getting that total sales number from the entire data set, not just the filtered view I'm currently looking at.
Precisely. You got it.
Okay, all is powerful.
It is.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got remove filters. We've got all, you mentioned one more. I think it was keep filters.
Right. Keep filters.
What's that all about?
Keep filters is kind of unique because it actually adds filters to the existing filter context without removing any.
So it's not like hitting reset or saying, forget the filters.
No, it's more like adding a layer on top.
It's like saying, okay, on top of what I've already told you, I want to add this too.
Exactly.
Okay, so give me a scenario where I would use keep filters.
Let's say you have a report that's already filtered for a particular region,
Okay.
and you want to further analyze sales for a specific product within that region.
Okay.
You could use keep filters to add that product filter while still maintaining the existing region filter.
So I'm like zooming in even further.
Exactly. You're getting more and more granular with your analysis.
Okay, so it's like layers of filters.
Exactly.
Okay, these are like secret weapons, these filter modifier functions.
They are. They can really unlock some amazing insights.
All right, so are there any other like super advanced filtering tricks I should know about?
There are a couple more that are kind of specialized, like use relationship and cross filter.
Okay.
Those are mainly used for managing relationships between tables in your data model. So like use relationship allows you to activate an inactive relationship, which can be useful for certain calculations. And then cross filter lets you control the direction of filtering between tables or even disable a relationship entirely.
Okay, that sounds like a whole other deep dive.
It is. Yeah, it's a bit more advanced.
Okay, but for now, I'm still trying to wrap my head around remove filters and keep filters.
Sure, those are the big ones.
Those are the big three.
Yeah.
Okay, so I keep thinking back to that core concept that we were talking about earlier about row context versus filter context.
Right.
It feels like the foundation of everything we're doing with Calculate.
It is. It's the underlying principle that makes it all work.
So let's just revisit that concept one more time just to make sure it's really crystal clear.
Okay, so imagine you have a spreadsheet that tracks all the orders for an online store.
Okay.
Each row represents a single order with details like the customer name, order, date, product, and price.
Uh-huh.
Now, let's say you want to calculate the average order value for a specific customer.
Okay, so I'm picturing this spreadsheet with rows and rows of order data.
Right.
Okay.
So row context would be like looking at a single row and seeing, for example, that John Smith placed an order for $50 on January 1st.
Okay, so each row has its own little bubble of information.
Exactly. It's its own little world.
Okay.
But to calculate the average order value for John Smith, we need to shift our perspective from individual rows to all the orders placed by John Smith.
Okay.
That's where filter context comes in.
So it's like zooming out from that single order
Uh-huh.
and applying a filter to only see John Smith's order.
Exactly. And that's what Calculate does. It takes the row context and transforms it into filter context,
Okay.
allowing you to perform calculations that consider both the individual row and the applied filters.
So it's not just calculating the average of all the orders in the spreadsheet.
Right.
It's calculating the average of a very specific subset of orders based on my filter criteria.
Precisely. You got it.
Okay, this is making a lot more sense. Now I'm seeing how Calculate takes something that could be a really complex calculation and simplifies it by letting us define exactly what data we want to include.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. It gives you so much control over your analysis.
So we've really, we've gone pretty deep, haven't we? Into Calculate.
Yeah, into the depths of Calculate.
And all the things, how it works.
And all its mysteries.
Yeah, and what it can do.
How it can make your life easier.
Yeah, and really, I think, for me, the biggest thing is that it's almost like a way of thinking.
It is, yeah.
About data analysis.
It is, yeah. You start thinking about it in a different way.
Because it's not just about like, I've got these numbers in a spreadsheet.
Right.
It's like, okay, now I can ask really specific questions.
Yes, you're not just crunching numbers. You're actually extracting insights and telling stories with the data.
Yes, and it's like, it's given me the tools to do that.
It's empowering, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is very empowering. Okay, so for our listener, maybe let's just kind of recap, just make sure we've got all the key pieces in place.
So we started with the basic structure of a calculate formula.
Right.
You have the expression, which is that core calculation you want to do. And then you have the filters, which define how you want to slice and dice your data.
Right. And we talked about different types of filters too.
Yes, we did.
We've got the Boolean filters, which are those like true false statements.
Yep.
We've got table filters, which let us reference whole tables of data. And then the really fun ones, the filter modifier functions.
The power tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, remove filters, all keep filters.
Yeah.
They give you so much control over how the calculation works.
Yeah, and the thing that really I think is so important for people to understand is that shift from row context to filter context.
Yes, that's the magic of Calculate.
That is the magic of Calculate.
Taking that row level focus and expanding it to the entire data set based on your filters.
Yeah, it's like moving from looking at, one individual tree to understanding the whole forest.
Exactly, you got it.
Okay, so for our listener out there who might be thinking like, okay, this is all great. This all sounds really powerful, but how do I actually start using this?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What would you say to them?
Well, I would say the best way to learn is by doing, pick a data set that you're familiar with, maybe your sales data or your website traffic, and start asking questions.
Okay.
Like, what were the total sales for a particular product category last quarter? How does the average order value differ between different customer segments?
And you can start small.
Yeah,
absolutely. You can start with like really simple questions.
Yes, start simple and then gradually increase the complexity.
Yeah, and just get a feel for it.
Exactly. The more you play around with it, the more comfortable you'll become.
Yeah, and the real aha moment, I think, comes when you realize like how much control you have.
It is empowering.
Yeah, you're not just limited to those like basic Excel formulas anymore.
You're in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
You're the DAX wizard.
Yeah, okay, so I have one final question for you.
Okay.
And this is for our listener to kind of ponder as well.
All right, I like it.
How can you apply Calculate to a real-world problem that you're facing right now?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something like you need to analyze sales trends.
Right.
Compare performance across different regions, or identify your top performing products.
Oh, Calculate can help you with all of that.
Can.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap things up, we've really, I think, gone deep on the Calculate function.
We have.
In this deep dive.
We have gone deep.
We've seen how it works.
We have.
Explored different filtering techniques.
Yes.
And seen how it can just completely transform your data analysis.
The game changer.
It really is.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're feeling inspired.
Yeah.
And empowered.
Absolutely.
To really tackle those data challenges.
And to become a DAX master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been a blast exploring Calculate with you. And
likewise.
Until next time, happy calculating.
Happy calculating.